Before we begin, please know that some episodes include language that may be sensitive for some people. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Birth Portal. My name is Connie. Today's episode is not a single birth story. I'm going to talk about the most difficult part of a midwife's job. It's not about the long on-call hours. It's not about the lack of sleep, food, or drink we sometimes experience. It's not about missing special occasions with our family and friends like Christmas, our children's school presentations, graduations, anniversaries, and even funerals. It's about walking with a couple or a single mom through one of the most heart-wrenching times of their lives, dealing with the loss of their unborn baby. Sadly, 1 in 5 pregnancies end in a loss. We call this a miscarriage. Most women will miscarry within the first 12 weeks of pregnancy, and some will not even know they've in fact miscarried, and perhaps just had a heavy period, thinking nothing more of it. Many women that experience a miscarry will bury their sadness with early miscarriages. Early miscarriage is approximately less than 12 weeks gestational age. Losses between 12 and 20 weeks we call a late miscarriage. When a fetus or baby passes in the uterus after 20 weeks gestational age, we call that a stillborn. Unfortunately, much of society doesn't recognize early miscarriage as something to give more meaning to. People will often say, "Oh well, at least it happened early on." The fact of the matter is, from the knowledge of pregnancy, it's normal for our brains to imagine that a baby is part of our family. And we even go so far as to imagining what they will look like, who they will become, only to lose them unexpectedly and most often with no known reason. It is important for us to recognize their loss, express our sympathy no matter how early the loss. At times, midwives would have to call women to let them know that their baby unfortunately had passed. And if they had not passed the baby with the bleeding spontaneously, then a discussion was had on their options. This never became an easy discussion, as one can imagine. Some women would choose to take a medication if early on in the pregnancy that would make their uterus contract and they could pass the baby. This would allow them to stay home and go through the process privately, and usually without complications, but not always. Some would choose to go under a general anesthetic and have the doctor's help. Some women would have no choice but allow their bodies to sadly end the pregnancy, sometimes with us on the phone guiding them, or even alone. Some would only have the option of having to labor and deliver their baby, which we would see in stillbirth. So that's again after 20 weeks gestational age. Babies as early as 15 weeks, although body parts are in disproportion compared to later gestational age, still are babies, with legs, arms, fingers, toes, eyes, and nose. Delivering these babies and giving them to the mother to hold hurts just as much as a full-term baby that has passed. I have many memories seized in my mind of sharing these experiences with mothers even 25 years later. I still have a tiny pewter elephant given to me by a mum I hold dear to my heart, and I see it every day, remembering her strength. I drove through every red light to get to her, and could only hold her after the fact. One of the hospitals I worked in that dealt with pregnancy losses or terminations of babies that were just not going to make it due to severe abnormalities were so supportive and tender to the couples or single women. We would make bracelets for the baby with their name, wrap them in tiny blankets, or clothe them in the tiniest of knitted clothes. We would take photos if the parents wanted. Social worker support was organized, and sometimes funeral services were helped put in place. Sometimes it was just too painful for people to see and touch their baby. One doctor told me they once carried a baby that had miscarried for a short time after the delivery, as the couple just couldn't bear to hold or see their baby. I learned that it is okay to cry with a family and still be strong for them at the same time. Next time you learn of someone who has just lost a baby, no matter how old, just say you are sorry for their loss. Don't say, well, at least, ... And most importantly, know that everyone grieves differently. One parent may get back to work immediately, while another can't eat, sleep, or cope for weeks or months on end. Allow each other to grieve in the way you need. Don't judge the other. Rather, just allow, support, and express, and when able, we'll hopefully get to see the light again. And my deepest sympathies to each and every one of you that have experienced a loss or a loss of someone near and dear to your heart. Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Birth Portal.